It's been a while. I know I shouldn't have kept you waiting, but I'm here now. Hey guys, so here we are. I'm back. If any of you actually were missing me. No, but in all honesty, I did have like one or two people message me on Instagram asking when the next video was or what's going on or what's happening, so I appreciate that, thank you so much. And also to the people who have carried on watching my videos that are already there and are listening and are taking valuable information from it. There's my cat scratching. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm so glad that those videos can be found and are very helpful. So it's almost been 6 months, or has it already been 6 months? March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months. So I guess we should do a little update on what 6 months living here has been like, what my thoughts are, and yeah, just kind of a little check-in, a little update, because God knows it's been a while. So before I go into detail of what life is like after 6 months living in Vancouver and the reality of moving abroad and how different it can be, I thought I'd do a little preview of how expensive it is to live in Vancouver, and I also thought a little preview of what you generally tend to spend. So today is what I spent in a day. So I went shopping today and I bought, household items, I bought food, and we've got an additional expense of the cats. So I bought some stuff for the cats as well, cat food, and yeah. And then I also bought some, general stuff like washing up powder, for the washing, and things like paracetamol, which is called something completely different here, and just some deodorant. So how much did that actually all come to in one day of shopping? Now, it was in 3 different places, because as I explain later in the video, you can't just go to one place. And yeah, let's have a look at how much it actually cost. This side of the table, which is our food shop, which includes some chicken, some meats, some fruit and veg, and some pasta, some cheese. That came to a grand total of $79.74, with a saving of $2. I'll have you know. So that just on a food shop, and a little tiny food shop, as you can see here, was $79. Almost 80. That is £48 in UK currency. The next shop at another place, which is more of your household items, such as toilet roll, cat food, deodorant, and some tablets. I bought how many items? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 items in that shop, just little household stuff. And that came to a grand total of $73.61. And that $73.61 is just on 6 tins of cat food, 2 deodorants, 2 tablets, a bag of cat food, toilet roll, and washing up powders. And then we went to a third shop, which is kind of like a bargain shop and is known as Magic Dollar Tree, although that isn't the name of the place. It's like going to Poundland in the UK, or like a little tiny, little tiny shop that sells everything, little trinkets and things. So I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things there. A lint roller for the clothes, WD-40 because the balcony door is sticking, plasters, first aid, band-aids, some incense for the pure vibes, and an incense holder. That came to a total of $20. So that is just a little preview of what shopping here is like in Vancouver. I'll do a whole video on breaking down the costs and what you can get for your money here and how much it actually costs, comparing it back home to the UK. But yeah, that's just a little preview of just what one day shop on basic necessities, not even that much food, not even that much household stuff, how much that actually costs. But first maybe I should put this on like a little tripod. 6 months here in Vancouver, Canada, and that has flown by so quickly. I can't believe how fast it's happened and how much has changed in 6 months, and yeah, it's all a bit crazy. I came over here March 7th, I believe, and I had a job lined up the week after. Yeah, the job went fine, but I'm not in the same job anymore, so that's changed. What should I say about the job? Well, The job was fine. It was enjoyable. I met somebody there and I made friends with them. She's from Toronto, so got a little Canadian friend and everything like that. And yeah, it was nice to be working on an animation. It was nice to be working, I guess really, I don't know how much I can say because I signed a contract and everything, but it's for a TV show that is going on a streaming platform for a well-known mouse. And yeah, it was a great experience to work on something like that. But I was only there for a couple of months, basically because I just wanted something different and the job wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, so I managed to find another job. Now, I said in my past video that when you move over here to Canada, I 100% recommend that before you come over, you get a job. And it happened really easy for me. It happened so quickly for me, and I was incredibly lucky to find a job before I came over. I already had my IEC visa, and I could have come over here with savings and then looked for a job, but I'm so glad I didn't, because the reality of living in Vancouver is very different to what I thought it would be. I knew it was going to be expensive, but my God, it is fucking expensive. So expensive, ridiculously expensive. And in fact, the costs of living here, I'm going to do in a whole separate video because that needs complete explaining. Everything from, you know, your car, books, groceries, rent, utilities, like it needs a whole separate video. So I will be doing that very soon. I'm so glad I had a job before I came over, and I really recommend that before you come over, you try as much as you can to get a job before you come here, or come over with a lot of savings. So that happened. I'm in a new job now. I'm a video editor, so I'm working as a video editor, and yeah, going well in that job, enjoying that job, and I'm happy with that job. 6 months here. I know I keep saying that, but what's changed in 6 months? Well, obviously my job situation's changed. I found a rental, which you saw in my last video, and this is a lovely rental. It's a nice place to live in. Got my cats with me. Nice area of town. It's very central, and yeah, touch wood, everything seems to be going quite well. My partner came over in April, as you saw in the last video, and since he came over in April, he hasn't found any work. No work at all. So that is not on him, like it's not without trying. He had loads of interviews and applied for so many jobs. A handful of those jobs did get back to him, and each one of the interviews, nothing kind of came of it. And that is because a lot of the jobs here, which is different to the UK, but a lot of the job interviews here, in his experience at least anyway, it might not be for you and it definitely wasn't for me, but in his experience, he literally had to jump through hoops to even get an interview. He would be sent quizzes that he had to do, like fill in these quizzes online. And then if he passed those quizzes, he'd be called to one interview. And then that interview would be with a, I don't know, say like a recruitment advisor. And then he would do an interview with that person, and then find out in that interview that she would then pass on to a HR department or whatever, and then somebody else would interview him and then pass it on to the actual people hiring. So he went through like 3 interviews, and each one he passed, but then nothing came of it. So it was a lot of time wasted. And he, you know, between doing huge tasks, they weren't just tasks like, what would you do in this situation? There was like 20 questions, or he had to act like he was doing the job for whatever it was. Basically what was happening was they were giving him huge tasks to do at an interview stage before he even got an interview, and then before he even got a second interview, and then a third interview. So that was his experience. I don't know, it definitely wasn't my experience, and it's probably not a lot of people's experience, but he's had a lot of interviews like that here. So that is something to consider too. This is why I'm saying if you can find a job before you come over, 100% do that. But yeah, still trying and still no work. So the situation here has been a little bit tense. Not in a like dramatic way, like relationship wise, but tense in the sense that like without a second income, it's really hard to live here. So I think what I'm saying there is if you are coming over here on your own, really kind of work out how you're going to survive and how you're going to live here. Because like I say, I'm going to do a whole video on the cost of living here, but the cost of living is astronomical. It's crazy. So I'm on a salary that is 64k a year. My first salary was 60k a year. Now I'm 64k a year, and I barely get by. Like, I'm earning the most money I've ever earned. When you convert that back to UK money, that's more than I ever earned back in the UK. And when I was in the UK, I was on 32, I think, 32k, and I still had enough money to afford food. I had enough money to pay my mortgage. I had enough money to go traveling whenever I wanted to go. Here, I'm earning the most I've ever earned, 64k and I can't afford to do anything. And that's because all my money goes on my rent and the cost of living. So please bear that in mind. It's a huge struggle here, and I dread to think what other people are struggling with. I think the way to get around that is probably to either rent a place or find a rental with roommates, because I hear those rents are a lot cheaper. In fact, the friend I made, she's still spending, I mean, it's expensive. She's spending 1.5, I think, but she lives with roommates. And also she lives in like a solarium, like literally like, it's not even like a room. They've just converted it into a room for 1,500 a month. The context of that is she's in downtown, and downtown is where it's expensive, but I mean, even if you go a bit further out, it's still expensive. And I'm going to do a whole video on like where to rent and where to live and how much that might cost you and what's there to do. So I think that would be quite useful for people. I would have loved that, so I'm going to do a video like that as well. So 6 months here has given me a lot of perspective on what life was like back in the UK, but also what life is like here. And it's not all negative. I mean, in Vancouver, the scenery is stunning. I mean, to be able to live in a city and literally two minutes away is the beach and the ocean is just, you know, I never take that for granted. I will never take that for granted. I can't believe that I'm so close to the beach and that I can see the sea and I can, yeah, do all that stuff. When my friend came over in July and we went traveling and we went a bit further out because I managed to book some time off. And of course we didn't have to pay for accommodation or anything because I was already living here. I had a rental and everything. So we just booked a little car, which we paid for with UK money because there's no way I would have been able to afford that on my salary here, which is fucking ridiculous. But we took that and we went out to wider British Columbia for a little bit, and that was really fun because we got to see Whistler, we got to see Squamish, really cute little towns in BC, British Columbia. We got out of downtown and the craziness of Vancouver, and yeah, it was just a great experience to do a little bit of traveling again. It was only for a couple of days, but it was worth it 100%. And it was also nice to see somebody from home because, you know, this is the reality of when you move abroad. The things they don't really tell you, it's not always glossy, it's not always a better way of life, it's not always happiness, because you do miss home. You miss your friends, you miss your family a lot. I miss my family a lot. I miss my friends. And you know, you will miss your home comforts, and that is the reality of living abroad. You have to embrace a completely new way of life here, which is absolutely fine to do. But there are times when the Canadians will do something differently, and you think to yourself, oh my God, this is really hard to adjust to because you've done it a completely different way all your life. So that is a hard thing. And I'm talking from a UK perspective, you know, because the UK has got their own ways of doing stuff when it comes to like taxes or, you know, things you can buy, the options available to you. Here in Canada, it's a lot different. And what surprised me about Canada was how young it is, you know, because it's got a history of Indigenous cultures here. And it was around about the 1800s, I want to say. I'm probably wrong with my dates. I'm not a historian, but that's when the colonization happened. And since then, the way of life in Canada is a very young way of life. I mean, Vancouver as we know it is probably, I believe it's like 170 years old or 183 years old or something like that. There's some, it's nothing, you know, it's nothing. In fact, there's an island nearby called Granville Island. And when I went there, it was like big celebrations, like this is 100 years old. And I remember thinking, well, my mum's house alone is over 100 years old. So like Vancouver is very young. And I think because of that, they don't really have, it's the wrong word to say, but they don't have like an identity as such. So they're still kind of like working things out and they do things differently because they're trying things, I guess, and it's fairly new. You know, the way they do things is fairly new. Maybe it will change one day, but this is what I mean with the UK. It's like the UK will do something completely different and it's a hard adjustment because they've been doing it for years and they've changed it and Vancouver is new to it. Another thing I've noticed as well whilst living here is that Canada has this sort of mixed culture of it's either Canadian or American. It's very hard to tell sometimes, especially when the accents are very similar. You can tell a Canadian from the way they say a or about or out, but the Americans, I mean, it sounds pretty similar. I'm sure a lot of Canadians won't like me saying that, but I mean, the TV as well is a lot of American TV, and a lot of the way they do stuff is very American as well. It's not like as bad as America or like as backwards in some ways as America. But I mean, things like leave here, I mean, you only get 2 weeks leave, maybe 8 days. I've got 3 weeks leave in the new job that I was at, but my other job was only 8 days because I started in March. So that was an adjustment, because obviously in the UK we get a lot longer leave, 27 days is standard or something like that, I don't know. So that's something to get on board with as well. If you're coming from that, you need to bear in mind that your leave will be a lot different and you might not have as much time or freedom to do things. The one thing I do notice though about Canada, and here in Vancouver, I'm speaking for Vancouver, but they seem to respect more a work-life balance, which I think is very important. That was something I never really encountered in the UK and never really found. And I'm like, obviously it did exist, but here there seems to be like more boundaries and more respect for how long you're going to work and when you're going to work. And it's more like, no, you can't come in on the weekend because we just won't allow you, which is a good thing, because then you start trailing into this sort of murky ground of, well, I'll do some overtime here and do some overtime here, and then your whole life becomes consumed by work. So I've noticed here that it just does seem to be a better work-life balance. There's more consistency with the days you work and the hours you work, and I think that's a good thing about Canada, and I really appreciate that, because my last job was very stressful and all over the place. So yeah, there's that. But going back to the reality of living here, it can be a huge adjustment, and you will get homesick, and in those times you can feel quite low and you can feel like you've made a mistake. And I don't feel like I've made a mistake, and I don't regret moving here at all. I really have loved this experience of living here, and we'll see how long it continues as well, because it's a enjoyable place to live, if that makes sense. There are things that I can't get on board with, there are things I'm struggling to adjust to, but that is completely normal when you move somewhere completely new. You've grown up in a place where you have your own way of living, your own culture, your own experiences, your own way of doing stuff. And when you come to a new country, it's all about embracing that new way of life and embracing that new culture. And some people take to that really easily, and others take a little bit more time to do. There are things that I've embraced and love, and there are things that I'm still trying to adjust to. And that is something not to be overlooked or not to be discounted for when you are moving to a brand new country. So keep that in mind when you do come to Canada. You might come here and think, oh my God, what have I done? Because things are so different. And even though you might not think it's going to be that different, there are a lot of different things here. The way they drive is different. Where you shop is different. Like, if you want to go to a supermarket and buy alcohol, you can't. The alcohol is in their own shops. BC Liquor, British Columbia Liquor. You have to go to separate shops for your things like alcohol. Another thing here is like cannabis is legal. So again, you can't just go to a supermarket and buy cannabis, obviously, but you go to separate shops to buy cannabis. And that is something that, taking away cannabis obviously, but like things like your alcohol and that stuff, that can be a little bit annoying, because you find that when you just go shopping, you can't just get everything in one place. And that is a little bit annoying, because there's things like I'll go to one place and I can get, say milk, cheese, etc. But then I want to get like a butter or whatever, and it might not be in that shop. I need to go somewhere else. Or they might not do the cheese I like and I need to go somewhere else. It's like those little things get on your nerves a little bit, because you can't just pick one shop and stick to that shop. I mean, don't get me wrong, most of the time they will sell what you need, but a lot of the time you do have to keep going back and forth to different shops. It's like, I go to one shop and the cat food there is a lot more expensive than another shop. So if I want to save money, I need to go to this shop and then walk across town to this other shop, and that can get a little bit annoying. Also here, it's expensive to buy a car and run a car. And so we haven't got a car here. And so we do a lot of walking. And I mean, downtown is great to walk around. That's a good thing about Vancouver's downtown, is like everything is very central and they pride themselves on how close everything is. But I mean, when you're trying to carry shopping home, that gets annoying, especially if you want to save money, because you need to learn here how to save money. That was a complete new adjustment to me. I couldn't pop to like Tesco and buy everything I wanted in Tesco. I had to go to one shop and then to another shop and then another shop, and each one had different prices and each one was expensive. And yeah, we've just managed to find an affordable place, but it's on the complete opposite end of town, and we go there like once a week, because otherwise we can't do that every day. It's a massive struggle to walk back home. carrying these heavy bags of food because they don't do deliveries or anything. I would recommend getting a bike, like a little bicycle, because it's so cycle friendly here in Vancouver. So you can get a little bicycle and you can go on these little cycle lanes and maybe you can carry your shop in that way. You get around town a lot quicker doing that as well. But again, like I say, the roads are different. So I can't really tell yet who has the right of way when it comes to cyclists and cars, but like pedestrians always have the right of way by the sound of things. Like obviously if the light is ready to go, it goes white and you get your little walking man, you've got your right of way and the car has to wait for you. But cars here, if the light is red for the cars, they are legally allowed to turn right. So you find a lot of the time that you're crossing the road and then these cars are like turning and just waiting for people to walk, and it's all a bit like, what's going on? But then the cyclist's like, well, it's my right of way. And then you get all this sort of craziness with like people crisscrossing all over the place. So that was a little bit confusing as well. But yeah, back to the hacks. Definitely, if you can, get a little bicycle or get a little like trolley and put all your shopping in there, and then you can walk with a little granny trolley back to your apartment. And that will save you the strenuous task of carrying all these heavy equipments and heavy bags and everything like that. I'm trying out a thing right now where I'm signing up to all these different places, loyalty rewards programs, because if there is any sort of way I can save some money on my groceries and these regular places I'm going, then I'm definitely doing that, because you really need to. But again, I'm finding that even when you get your kind of your discounts and you've built up enough points and everything, it doesn't really work out as a discount, because you get discounted, but then you get hit with tax. So you get hit with these two taxes in Vancouver, in British Columbia. You get your normal tax on things, and then the British Columbia government are like, well, we want money too, so then they tax you again. So before you know it, you've got your discount, but then you've still paid the same price because they put the taxes on it. So that's an adjustment and something that I can't get on board with. I cannot get on board with that at all. Like, put your tax in the same thing and then don't tax us twice. Like, we already pay enough to live here. And the reality of living here as well, which I will definitely go into in a lot more things, but the reality of living here is a lot of people are struggling, and I'm struggling, we're struggling. So bear that in mind. Vancouver is probably the most expensive place to live if you're coming here, and Vancouver and Toronto seem to be in like a competition on who can be the most expensive. So really do your research, really decide on where you want to live and weigh up the pros and cons. Because like I say, Vancouver is a nice place for the scenery, and if you really like your outdoor stuff, then 100% Vancouver is the place to be, because there is so much outdoor stuff to do. But if you are going to get weighed down by the cost and you're worried about your jobs and you're coming over here just to do like bar staff work or work in retail or anything like that, I just would really reconsider. The one thing I would say is Whistler seem to offer these seasonal jobs for tourism, which is a great thing that a lot of people do on their work and holiday visas. So if you want to look at that, I know that Whistler like will hire you but also provide accommodation, which is probably a better way to save some money. And I can't really speak for the cost of living in Whistler, but I mean, with your pros of that sort of job thing, maybe that's a good thing. And also Whistler is this sort of like, it's almost like this Swiss Alps little town. And, you know, you might want to stay in that area and the shopping there may be a little bit more affordable. I don't know. But, you know, it's really like weighing up your pros and cons and what your job is going to get you and what your salary is going to get you and who you're living with and that situation. But yeah, 6 months here, gone so fast, but it's taught me already perspective, budgeting, and the reality of living somewhere different is different than you think it's going to be. It's an adjustment, and that adjustment can be quite hard to go through. So don't underestimate the feelings of insecurity, of doubt, of fear, of missing home or missing people from home. They are completely natural to have. Just embrace the way of living here and know that if anything really does go wrong, or if you really don't like it, then you've tried it. And that's the main thing. You've tried it, you've experienced it. You will always be able to look back on this moment and enjoy it and be so glad that you did it. And, you know, yeah, see what happens and see what goes. But I hope that isn't like a negative video, because there are pros and cons to living here, and I can go into more depth in another video, but I thought this is mainly kind of an update on how I'm feeling, what's going on, and what 6 months has happened for me. I've talked enough now, so I think it's time to go. But thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and comment and ask me any questions, because I need content. You know, I haven't done any videos in a while, so I need some ideas on things to do. But yeah, let me know. and join me in my next videos, because I'm going to do where you can rent, where you can live, and the cost of living here in a more of a broken down sort of way. So I hope that's useful to you. Thanks. See you soon. Bye-bye.